Walker, I was wondering, with the uncertainty about the long-term coaching situation, um, what are some of your thoughts about Anthony Hudson? What are some of his characteristics? I wonder if you could just speak about him as a coach and how the players relate going forward.
I think Anthony's done a great job at this camp. Obviously, we have himself and other staff who are continuing kind of the process that we were in under Greg in terms of how we play, our ideas, and so it allows for an ease of us to understand those kinds of ideas and principles. So he's done a great job of that from the coaching standpoint, and then in terms of welcoming younger players to the program, being very clear in our expectations on and off the field, he's been phenomenal. So yeah, it's not an easy job for him, but he's doing an amazing job so far at this camp.
This one's for Walker too. Walker, you were in a few camps under Dave Sarachan during, somewhat of an awkward time for the program. Could you reflect on what you think needs to happen during this next phase for the program, the next 6 months? Like, what was positive about that? And now being a leader within the group, what you can apply to the next 6 months?
Well, I think in the case of Dave in 2018, that year was instrumental in bringing a lot of new faces to the national team. This camp is another opportunity to do that. I think the difference, however, is we are still continuing our style of play, the way that we've worked over the past 4 years in this cycle. And so, again, guys are coming in, they're learning. We have a clear plan in terms of what we as players are expected to do on the field. And so, from that standpoint, that's just a continuation of things for us. And we're focused on, continuing to implement those things that we've learned.
Ari, mi pregunta en español es para Jesús. Hola Jesús, te habla Juan Camilo Vargas de Caracol Televisión Colombia. Quiero saber qué sensaciones tiene de cara a enfrentar a su selección, a su país por primera vez, vistiendo la camiseta de los Estados Unidos. ¿Y qué saben de Colombia? Porque es una convocatoria totalmente distinta en un proceso que apenas comienza. Gracias.
Sí, para mí es algo que no me lo esperaba, es casi como un sueño. Estoy feliz, estoy contento y listo para representar a Estados Unidos con todo lo que tengo. Estados Unidos a mí me abrieron las puertas y me dieron todo lo que necesitaba para poder representar a un país y ahora es mi momento para representar a mi país contra mi país natal. Obviamente contento que lo pueda hacer. Y solo salir allá y demostrar lo que sé hacer y disfrutarlo, es lo más importante.
Buenas tardes, Jesús. Mauricio Duque de la hora del FPC, ahí por la línea en la que preguntó mi compañero, consultarle qué conoce de la liga, de los jugadores que va a enfrentar, al no ser los habituales convocados en este ciclo de la Selección Colombia. Y bueno, en lo personal, a nivel familiar, quisiera preguntarle qué emoción hay, bueno, obviamente suya, también de su papá, que bueno, en el caso de él representó a los colores de la Selección Colombia, y bueno, no sé si han podido hablar de lo que será ese encuentro de mañana. Muchas gracias.
Sí, para mí, yo no veo mucho el fútbol colombiano, lo veía bastante cuando mi papá jugaba y de técnico con el Unión, pero ahora que no está ahí mucho, trato de enfocarme en otras ligas. Obviamente tengo amigos que juegan en la liga doméstica de allá, Andrés Ricaurte, que está en el Medellín, obviamente compañeros que jugaron conmigo en el Dallas, y es una liga competitiva, una liga muy buena, que sale bastantes jugadores de ahí y los ves en todo el mundo. Para mí, en lo personal, este partido va a ser algo interesante. No creo que tengo las palabras como me siento, pero contento que mi familia va a estar aquí apoyándome mañana. Y obviamente es una decisión que tomé hace 3 años y muy contento con mi decisión. Creo que a mí me abrieron las puertas cuando lo necesitaba lo más y muy feliz que pueda representar a Estados Unidos mañana.
Question for Walker. You had, I think, 8 players made their debut the other night. How do you think that group sort of handled the moment? And then for both of you guys, how big is it for the U.S. to have a chance to play in the Copa America in 24?
It was great, to have guys come in, try and soak up as much information as possible in the 3 to 4 days that we had leading into the game. I thought they did a really good job from the tactical standpoint, from a competitive standpoint, the work ethic. You could tell that every single one of them was proud to wear this crest. and that should be a given. First and foremost, like, we have to show up and we have to compete. So from that standpoint, they did well. Thought we had definitely a couple bright spots with some guys in their debuts. And in terms of Copa America, I mean, what a big tournament to have the opportunity to be a part of. It'll be fun, it'll be exciting, and a chance for us to get some more competitive games as we prepare for 2026.
We'll take a question from Zoom and start with Doug McIntyre from Fox.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, guys. Thanks for doing this. Question for both of you to start. Just curious what the feeling is inside the team, particularly among the guys who are on the World Cup roster, to this sudden leadership point. How did you learn the news? What's the feeling? And Jesus, for you in particular, I'm curious to hear about your World Cup experience and how difficult it was to not play in that in the first round, and then you get thrown into a knockout match as your first World Cup experience. Now that you look back, some time has passed. How do you sort of process all that? Thanks so much.
Well, I think, it is a transitional time, but for us as players, again, I think the continuity of how we're playing and implementing what we've been doing over the past 4 years, it doesn't change too much for us right now in this moment. And, we're going to continue to do that, continue to try and make an impression every single time we get to play for the United States. And so that's kind of like what our job is. And so we're just going to do our best to keep doing that.
Yeah, for me, my World Cup experience was amazing. I think that everybody kid's dream is to make it to a World Cup, no matter what role you play. And so I was just happy and excited to be able to be a part of the U.S. and especially represent my country at a World Cup.
Next will be Henry Bushnell.
Thanks, Michael. Question for, I guess, Walker, but Jesus, you can feel free to answer this as well. U.S. Soccer said yesterday that in addition to trying to replace Ernie Stewart and/or Brian McBride, they're going to evaluate the whole leadership structure of the program, above and beside the head coach. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, Brian or maybe even Ernie communicate with you guys? Like, did he have a hands-on either in camp or out of camp? Did you have a hands-on role? Were you working much directly with him at all?
I think both Ernie and Brian have been great within the program. I know the structure is changing, but when they were in camp, they were definitely guys that we could talk to, have conversations with about what was their playing experience, how things were going with the youth teams, just how they were keeping connected. And so for us, the question about was it communicated to us? Ernie was very considerate enough to bring a couple guys aside the night before the announcement, express his thanks to us. With our relationships with him, and informed us of the news, and that'd be announced the next day. So always two upfront guys, amazing. Their playing careers, the characteristics that they embody, their passion for U.S. soccer, that's never been in doubt, and we can feel that from them. So they've been great every time they're in camp.
Next will be Jonathan Tannenwald.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks to both of you guys for the time. Walker, I think it's probably more for you than obviously. Welcome to answer. It expands on the Copa America subject. I know you took a question about it a moment ago, but how much of another sort of North Star and direction does it give everybody to say, hey, this is something we can look forward. It helps maybe clear the minds a little bit of everything. Everybody's talking about everything. How much does having that now there to look at help it?
Yeah, I think it's massive. For us, knowing after Qatar ended, we were all of us looking at the schedule, going, okay, like what are our fixtures going to look like over the next 3.5 years? And we knew we had to play in big games. We had to play in big tournaments. And so the opportunity to have Copa America here in the United States, play against some of the best from CONMEBOL, I mean, it's huge for us. And you're right, it is something to look forward to. We do have Nations League coming up, Gold Cup coming up, which are titles that we're trying to defend, but it definitely adds that element of big games, big pressure, and a great kind of tune-up prior to 2026.
We'll come back in the room and back to your left.
Jesús, un gusto. Para Colombia, el Parche del Fútbol. Mi nombre es Jorge Martínez. La pregunta es, después de la buena sensación que dejaron futbolísticamente en el Campeonato Mundial de Qatar, vuelven y se reúnen, y después de eso ustedes piensan que cuál va a ser el techo, cuál es el objetivo que se trazan, las primeras palabras del entrenador respecto a estos 4 años que se vienen para ustedes, y obviamente hacer una buena presentación acá de locales.
Sí, para nosotros siempre queremos mejorar. Cada partido que juguemos queremos hacer un buen papel y seguir mejorando. Creo que, como usted lo dijo, hicimos un buen papel en el Mundial, pero obviamente nos dejaron las ganas de seguir y hacer un mejor papel. Para futbolistas, uno no quiere salir de esa manera de un Mundial, uno quiere llegar hasta una final y poder ser campeón. Eso no se pudo y nosotros regresamos a casa y mejoramos. Creo que tenemos un grupo de jugadores aquí que están listos, tienen hambre para ganar cosas y aprender y estamos listos para lo que se viene, que va a ser bastantes partidos.
We'll take two more questions and continue with Joseph de Hippolito.
Thanks, Michael. Gentlemen, this is for both of you. What kind of an impression has Gaga Solina made in camp, and what makes him unique from the goaltenders you have either played against or with?
I think we've all kind of heard the stories about Gaga and his maturity for his age, and that's something that I can definitely say I've seen from him. You know, he's the guy who is up early, cup of coffee, crossword out, probably reading all the newspapers in hand, and is like doing all of his prep work, his activation, and his post-training rehab. Like, he's just a really good professional, and it's hard to see that kind of maturity from someone so young. And so we're wishing him all the best as he continues to try and grow his game in Europe. But I think he's a guy who's been very professional from the first time that he's represented the United States. And obviously we're looking forward to watching his progress over the next couple of years.
Last question goes to Andrew Jones.
Thank you, Michael. First, for both of you too, have you had any contact with Rick Verhulster since the World Cup, and with any contact with Gio Reyna? And for you, Jesus, how was that time at the LA Zoo and that experience for you as you continue to enjoy the Zoo Island Road?
Yeah, of course. You know, they were such a big part of what we were doing in Qatar. Definitely have had contact with both. For me, it's, you know, Gio's in our fantasy football chat. Like, we talked throughout the rest of the football season. Greg obviously, you know, was amazing for us and played such a big role in Qatar. So yeah, it's not a non-issue for us to keep in touch with them. We're friends, we're close. So yeah, kind of a non-issue for us.
For me, the LA Zoo was a place where I went out there and enjoyed it. You know, I love animals. I like learning about animals, and anytime that, you know, I could experience an experience like that, I'm always grateful for the opportunity that they gave me. And, you know, it's always exciting to go out there and learn more about animals.